4. Reality of human life. People in this world are prone to be selfish and unsympathetic. They do not know how to love and respect one another. They argue and quarrel over trifling affairs only to their own harm and suffering, and life becomes but a dreary round of unhappinesses. 第4節、迷いの姿。この世の人々は人情が薄く、親しみ愛することを知らない。しかもつまらないことを争い合い、激しい悪と苦しみの中にあって、それぞれの仕事を務めて、ようやくその日を過ごしている。Regardless of whether they are rich or poor, they worry about money. They suffer from poverty and they suffer from wealth. Because their lives are controlled by greed, they are never contented, never satisfied. A wealthy man worries about his estate if he has one. He worries about his mansion and all other possessions. He worries lest some disaster befall him. His mansion burn down, robbers break in, kidnappers carry him off. Then they worries about death and the disposition of his wealth. Indeed, his way to death is lonely, and nobody follows him to death. 立場の高下にかかわらず、富の多少にかかわらず、すべて皆金銭のことだけに苦しむ。なければないで苦しみ、あればあるで苦しみ、ひたすらに欲のために心を使って安らかな時がない。富める人は他があれば他を憂え、家があれば家を憂え、すべて存在するものに執着して憂いを重ねる。あるいは災いに遭い、困難に出会い、奪われ焼かれて亡くなると苦しみ悩んで命までも失うようになる。しかも死への道は一人で歩み、誰も付き従うものはない。A poor man always suffers from insufficiency, and this serves to awaken endless desires for land and a house. Being aflame with covetousness, he wears out both his body and mind, and comes to death in the middle of his life. The whole world seems pitted against him, and even the path to death seems lonesome, as though he has a long journey to make and no friends to keep him company. 貧しい者は常に足らないことに苦しみ、家を欲しがり、他を欲しがり、この欲しい欲しいの思いに焼かれて心身ともに疲れ果ててしまう。このために命を全うすることができずに中途で死ぬようなこともある。すべての世界が敵対するかのように見え、死での旅路はただ一人だけではるか遠くに行かなければならない。Now there are 5 evils in the world. First, there's cruelty. Every creature, even insects, strives against one another. The strong attack the weak deceive the strong. Everywhere there is fighting and cruelty. またこの世には5つの悪がある。一つにはあらゆる人から地に這う虫に至るまで、すべて皆互いに いがみ合い、強い者は弱い者を倒し、弱い者は強い者を欺き、互いに傷つけ合い、いがみ合っている。Second, there is a lack of a clear demarcation between the rights of a father and a son, between an elder brother and a younger, between a husband and a wife, between a senior relative and a younger. On every occasion, each one desires to be the highest and to profit off the others. They cheat each other. There is deception and a lack of sincerity. Third, there is a lack of a clear demarcation as to the behavior between men and women. Everyone at times has impure and lascivious thoughts and desires that lead them into questionable acts and often into disputes, fighting, injustice, and wickedness. 二つには親子、兄弟、夫婦、親族などすべてそれぞれ己の道がなく守るところもない。ただ己を中心にして欲を欲しいままにし、互いに欺き合い、心と口とが別々になっていて誠がない。三つには誰も彼も皆よこしまな思いを抱き、みだらな思いに心を焦がし、男女の間に道がなく、そのために徒党を組んで争い戦い、常に非道を重ねている。Fourth, there is the tendency for people to disrespect the rights of others, to exaggerate their own importance at the expense of others, to set bad examples of behavior and being injustice in their speech, to deceive, slander, and abuse others. Fifth, there is the tendency for people to neglect their duties toward others. They think too much of their own comfort and their own desires. They forget the favors they have received and cause annoyance to others that often passes into great injustice. 四つには互いに良い行為をすることを考えず、共に教え合って悪い行為をし、偽り、無駄口、悪行、二枚舌を使って互いに傷つけ合っている。共に尊敬し合うことを知らないで、自分だけが尊い偉いものであるかのように考え、他人を傷つけて顧みることがない。五つにはすべてのものは怠り怠けて、良い行為をすることさえ知らず、恩も知らず、義務も知らず、ただ欲のままに動いて他人に迷惑をかけ、ついには恐ろしい罪を犯すようになる。People should have more sympathy for one another. They should respect one another for their good traits and help one another in their difficulties, but instead they are selfish and hard-hearted. They despise one another for their failings and dislike others for their advantages. These aversions generally grow worse with time and after a while become intolerable. This feeling of dislike do not soon end in acts of violence, yet they poison life with feelings of hatred and anger that become so deeply carved into the mind that people carry the marks into the cycle of reincarnation. 人は互いに敬愛し、施し合わなければならないのに、わずかな利害のために互いに憎しみ争うことだけをしている。しかも争う気持ちがほんのわずかでも、時の経過に従ってますます大きく激しくなり、大きな恨みになることを知らない。この世の争いは互いに損ない合ってもすぐに破滅に至ることはないけれども、毒を含み怒りが積み重なり、憤りを心にしっかり刻みつけてしまい、生を変え死を変えて互いに傷つけ合うようになる。Truly, in this world of lust, a person is born alone and dies alone, and there is no one to share one's punishment in the life after death. The law of cause and effect is universal. Each person must carry one's own burden of sin and must go alone to its retribution. The same law of cause and effect controls good deeds. A lack of sympathy and kindness will result in good fortune and happiness. 人はこの愛欲の世界に一人生まれ、一人死ぬ。未来の報いは代わって受けるものがなく、己一人でそれに当たらなければならない。善と悪とはそれぞれその報いをことにし、善は幸いを、悪は災いをもたらし、動かすことのできない道理によって定まっている。しかもそれぞれが己の行為に対する責任を担い、報いの定まっているところへ一人赴く。As years go by and people see how strongly they are bound by greed, habit, and suffering, they become very sad and discouraged. Often in their discouragement, they quarrel with others and sink deeper into sin and give up trying to walk the true path. Often their lives come to some untimely end in the very midst of their wickedness, and they suffer forever. 恩愛の絆につながれては憂いに閉ざされ、長い月日を経ても痛ましい思いを解くことができない。それとともに激しい貪りに溺れては悪意に包まれ、でたらめにことを起こし、他人と争い、真実の道に親しむことができず、寿命も尽きないうちに死に追いやられ、永遠に苦しまなければならない。This falling into discouragement because of one's misfortunes and sufferings is most unnatural and contrary to the law of heaven and earth, and therefore one will suffer both in this world and in the worlds after death. It is true that everything in this life is transitory and filled with uncertainty, but it is lamentable that everyone should ignore this fact and keep on trying to seek enjoyment and satisfaction of his desires. このような人の仕業は自然の道に逆らい、世間の道理に背いているので、必ず災いを招くようになり、この世でも後の世でも共に苦しみを重ねなければならない。まことに世俗のことは慌ただしく過ぎ去ってゆき、頼りとすべきものは何一つなく、力になるものも何一つない。この中にあってこぞって皆快楽の虜となっていることは嘆かわしい限りと言わなければならない。 It is natural in this world of suffering for people to think and act selfishly and egoistically, and because of it, it is equally natural for suffering and unhappiness to follow. People favor themselves and neglect others. People let their own desires run into greed and lust and all manner of evil. Because of these, they must suffer endlessly. Times of luxury do not last long, but pass away very quickly. Nothing in this world can be enjoyed forever. このようなありさまが誠にこの世の姿であり、人々は苦しみの中にあってただ悪だけを行い、善を行うことを少しも知らない。だから自然の道理によってさらに苦しみの報いを受けることを避けられない。ただ己にのみ何でも厚くして他人に恵むことを知らない。その上欲に責められてあらゆる煩悩を働かせ、そのために苦しみ、またその結果によって苦しむ。映画の時世は長続きせず、たちまちに過ぎ去る。この世の快楽も何一つ永続するものはない。Therefore, people should cast away, while they are young and healthy, all their greed and attachment to worldly affairs, and should seek earnestly for true enlightenment, for there can be no lasting reliance or happiness apart from enlightenment. Most people, however, disbelieve or ignore this law of cause and effect. They go on in their habits of greed and selfishness, being oblivious of the fact that a good deed brings happiness and an evil deed brings misfortune, nor do they really believe that one's acts in this life condition the following lives and implicate others with regard to the rewards and punishments for their sins. だから人は世俗のことをして健全な時に道を求め永遠の生を願わなければならない。道を求めることを他にしてどんな頼み、どんな楽しみがあるというのか。ところが人々は良い行為をすれば善を得、道にかなった行為をすれば道を得るということを信じない。また、施せば幸いを得るということを信じない。すべて善悪に関わるすべてのことを信じない。They lament and cry about their sufferings, entirely misunderstanding the significance their present acts have upon their following lives and the relation their sufferings have to the acts of their previous lives. They think only of present desire and present suffering. Nothing in the world is permanent or lasting. Everything is changing and momentary and unpredictable. But people are ignorant and selfish and are concerned only with the desires and sufferings of the passing moment. They do not listen to the good teachings, nor do they try to understand them. They simply give themselves up to the present interest, to wealth and lust. ただ誤った考えだけを持ち、道も知らず、善も知らず、心が暗くて、吉凶禍福が次々に起こってくる道理を知らず、ただ眼前に起こることだけについて泣き悲しむ。どんなものでも永久に変わらないものはないのであるから、すべて移り変わる。 ただこれについて苦しみ悲しむことだけを知っていて、教えを聞くことがなく、心に深く思うことがなく、ただ眼前の快楽に溺れて、財貨や色欲を貪って飽きることを知らない。From time immemorial, an incalculable number of people have been born into this world of delusion and suffering, and they are still being born. It is fortunate, however, that the world has the Buddha's teachings and that people can believe in them and be helped. Therefore, people should think deeply, should keep their minds pure and their bodies well, should keep away from greed and evil, and should seek good. 人々が遠い昔から迷いの世界を巡り、憂いと苦しみに沈んでいたことは、言葉では言い尽くすことができない。しかも今日に至ってもなお迷いは絶えることがない。ところが今仏の教えに合い、仏の名を聞いて信じることができたのは誠に嬉しいことである。だからよく思いを重ね、悪を遠ざけ、善を選び、努め行わなければならない。To us, fortunately, the knowledge of the Buddha's teachings has come. We should seek to believe in them and wish to be born in the Buddha's pure land. Knowing Buddha's teachings, we should not follow others into greedy and sinful ways, nor should we keep the Buddha's teachings to ourselves alone, but should practice the teachings and pass them on to others. 今幸いにも仏の教えに合うことができたのであるから、どんな人も仏の教えを信じて、仏の国に生まれることを願わなければならない。仏の教えを知った以上は、人は他人に従って煩悩や罪悪の虜になってはならない。また、仏の教えを己だけのものとすることなく、それを実践し、それを他人に教えなければならない。